I don't care. From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, glad to be back in the captain's chair after a day off of traveling to the State of the Union and everything else. Had a good visit in Washington, D.C. Loved it, in fact. Glad to have you back here with me in the foxhole of freedom. All right, it's Free for All Friday. Three big things this hour. Number one, Greenpeace, the radical anti-America, anti-capitalism fringe group staring into bankruptcy after losing a lawsuit over their smear job of a pipeline project. They're being ordered to pay $345 million, which they say they simply don't have. Well, that is too bad, huh? And number two, President Trump now releasing information about the Chinese infiltration and interference in U.S. elections. I've been telling you about this. It's a big deal. Now he's about to do something about it. You watch. And number three, the glow from President Trump's State of the Union address still bright. He called out the Democrats for not supporting Americans over illegal aliens, and it is something that has resonated across this nation. In fact, it's becoming a hammer of a political ad already. The new Republican ad from the State of the Union is brutal on the Democrats. Here it is.
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. These people are crazy.
Yikes! Showing all those Democrats asleep if you're not seeing it. You know, the right is cheering that the first thing of government is to protect an American citizen first, which it is. Couple that with Michigan's Rashida Tlaib chanting KKK while the chamber is chanting USA. Another grotesque example of why Democrats are facing a huge uphill battle in the midterm elections. Here's an example of what people took away. The best take on the State of the Union. Here it is from a black voter in D.C. Listen.
The way I viewed it last night watching it is that they gave a middle finger to the oath of office that they took. In fact, their new oath of office is oppose Trump. On anything, on any situation, the one thing that they seem to want to come together on is to oppose Trump. Trump could find a cure for cancer, and they would find a reason to disagree with it. Yeah. And I don't know if that is just their strategy to get them through the midterm or whatever, but I think that if it's just about opposing Trump, I don't think that the people that elected them sent them there to do that. Number one, it is about the American people first. You got to take care of home. You got to take care of your family before you can take care of or try to help to take care of someone else's.
And with that, let's get to it. Out of respect for the godfather of talk radio, Rush Limbaugh. It is Free Speech, Free for All Friday, powered by the Patriot Mobile Common Sense Hotline. The number to call, 877-310-9966, 877-310-9966. It's your chance to win on all the big topics, State of the Union or anything else. So let's dive right in. Glenn is going to kick us off from the great state of Ohio. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning.
Welcome to it.
How are we doing today?
Oh, doing good. What's on your mind?
I got a couple. Okay, we're going to talk about glyphosate. That I think it'd be, when it comes to keep America safe and clean, I think it'd be nice to put a stop to that. And it comes to the chemtrails, because they all do is just spraying chemicals onto our soil and our bodies. And my son is in the military, and he's getting all kinds of shots, and he's still demanding to take the shots. Flu shots, the anthrax shots. That's it.
Well, when you sign up for the military, in fairness, Glenn, and a great call, glyphosate, for anybody not keeping score, is Roundup. It's got, purposes in agriculture. It's been used for home gardeners and people trying to keep weeds out of their yards. And it has been linked in many studies with all sorts of cancer and so forth. I lost a good friend who was a farmer here a couple of years ago to cancer that he fought for several years and finally lost. So I appreciate that. So the glyphosate, Make America Healthy Again, a lot of people like to see that chemical go away. But you know what will happen, Glenn? If that chemical goes away, just like these forever chemicals, they'll change the formula a little bit, and they'll come out with something else. That's the challenge we face. I don't disagree with you. Let's go to Ken. He is in Arkansas, going south for caller number 2. Ken, how are you? All right, Ken, how are you? All right. Next, let's go to Ray in Virginia. Ray, how are you today?
Doing great. And I tell you, you are spot on with your podcast.
Well, thank you.
Well,
I greatly appreciate that. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second, Ray. I appreciate that.
I'm home.
The podcast is called Forgotten America. It's on YouTube. We drop new episodes every Monday. We'll have a preview for you coming up in just a few minutes of the next episode, but I appreciate the shout out, Ray. Let's get some people onto YouTube. Become a subscriber. Smash the like button. It's right there on your screen. Ray knows what he's talking about. Smart man from Virginia. All right, Ray, go ahead.
Well, I retired in 2003, and we had about 300 guys working there where I retired from. And we had a saying, BMGer. And that was really referring to Democrats. If you know what a female dog is, that's a B.
Yeah.
Put moan and groan on it, and you got a BMGer.
Yeah, complain, whine,
Democrats.
complain. It reminds me of the woman we just heard from. The woman saying their whole plan is to just hate Trump, oppose Trump. He could cure cancer. It wouldn't matter. You're exactly right, Ray. All they do is whine and complain, and if I may be so bold, piss and moan. It's true. How can you not stand up for American heroes at the State of the Union? I was there covering the event. It was disgusting. And that new Republican ad, really important, isn't it, Ray?
I want to say she is the most disgraceful person I've ever heard of in Virginia.
Spanberger.
Wow, I can't say nothing good about her.
Well, you get 50 new taxes.
But she is.
She's got creative ideas. 50 new taxes for people paying tax in Virginia. Ray, thank you for the phone call. Thank you for the shout out. Forgotten America on YouTube.
Go back to Ken. Ken is there. I hit the wrong button.
All right, Ken, you were not penalized. What's on your mind?
Well, good morning, Steve. This is Kim McMahon, United States Marine Corps retired. Sir, a couple of things. Number one, I want to let you know, 2.5 years ago, I had to move from Southern California after I retired from the Marine Corps because I couldn't afford to live there. I was sick and tired of it. The taxes, the gas, the traffic, and every other dang thing that happens out there. And the second thing I want to bring up to you is I traveled halfway around the world in the United States Marine Corps to fight on somebody else's land to keep
to protect this country,
these
they say.
People
right.
that we have these people, Tlaib and Omar and Ao and
you got it. All those people.
They hate us.
They do, and it's wrong.
They don't like us. Okay, and
Ken,
we're
I gotta
bringing
leave
them
it there.
back
Hold on,
here.
Ken. I'll bring you back. Hold on. I want to hear a little bit more from Ken after this. All right, let's dive right back into it because it's Free Speech, Free for All Friday in reverence to the godfather of talk radio, Rush Limbaugh. Let's go to Steve in Indiana. Steve, how are you today?
Finish up with Ken first.
Oh, that's
Finish
right,
up with
Ken. I got to go back to Ken, U.S. Marine Corps, retired. Ken, how are you?
Yes, sir.
All right, finish
Well,
up.
again, Steve, I was sent halfway around the world, ordered to go halfway around the world to fight a battle on somebody else's ground so we wouldn't bring them back here to the United States.
And yet?
And now we have Tlaib and we got Omar, all right? And now they're in Congress. The most disgusting people I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, Ken,
and I am so upset with the GOP at this point because we allow them to stay there. They need to be deported. I understand it's a GOP talking point because we need idiots like this to speak their mind, okay, so that the GOP can say, hey, look how bad Tlaib is. Look how bad these people are in the State of the Union. It's time for the GOP to get rid of them. These people are radical, and they need to get out. And believe it or not,
Well,
Steve,
here's the problem.
These people
Hold on.
actually have
Hold
an
on.
influence on young people.
Hold on, Ken. Here's the
They
problem.
have an influence on young people.
They do.
And
no question. But here's the
we need to
problem.
get rid
Tlaib
of
was
them.
born here. She's an American citizen. Now, Omar and people that come here from another country and become naturalized citizens and then cheat the system and commit fraud, they can be deported. Tlaib, we have to live with because the die was set in 1965. The Immigration and Naturalization Law signed by LBJ, I understand. But you got to hear me. Listen to what I'm saying.
We're using them just as fodder.
Well, the die was cast in 1965. I don't know how old you are, but I can tell you this.
Well, I was born in 1965.
Well, the year you were born, the die was already set. The deck was stacked against America, 1965. I have a book
So, Steve,
coming out
what do you
about that.
suggest? What do you suggest we do going forward?
I don't disagree with you about people that defraud America. They can be denaturalized and deported, as Marco Rubio said. No question about it. They can be. But Tlaib and others, maybe they could be run out of Congress for being terrible. But it's a tough fight. And look, you're right. It influences young people who get their news from TikTok instead of places like this. It's frightening. So what do we have to do? Well, what you have to do is hold your nose and vote because, look, for people that don't vote for Republicans, I'm mad at the Republicans, you end up with a Rashida Tlaib in your district. That is not acceptable. So you have to, sometimes you do have to pick the lesser of two evils, but sitting on the couch is not an option. Great call, Ken. There's a man who's angry, and I get it. A lot of us are angry. I'm angry. I get it. We can't sit idly by, but sometimes you have to live with a Susan Collins because it's better than the alternative, which is far worse. Look at my Senator Alyssa Slotkin. You want that for yourselves? Then sit on the couch. And if you don't, then get up and vote. Let's go to Steve in Indiana now. Steve, how are you?
Hey, doing great. How are you, Steve?
Good. What's on your mind?
My wife and I are Patriot Mobile customers. Love it. Can we take a moment to talk about AI?
Yeah, absolutely.
And 2 points. If we look at God as an AI developer, just 2 points around the caution God took when creating, managing, training, and testing his AI. The first is God created the heavens and the earth. The heavens, one of the heavens is the universe, hundreds of billions of light years across. The earth is like a tiny little grain of sand within that universe. And if we put that on our scale, software developers would be working on an atomic level when generating, testing, training the AI. What we're doing is we're creating robots pretty much the same size as us. So that's just one concept around the caution God took. The other is he created the Garden of Eden, which is pretty much the training and testing ground for his AI. He placed the tree of life, the tree of knowledge within that garden. He said you can eat from the tree of life, live forever. The tree of knowledge, which our terms today is awareness. It says you eat from that tree, you die. So he placed the virus or the bug
No, I get all that.
in the
but
training ground.
let's get to the point here. Need to get to your point. I
Yeah.
get it. But
Well,
AI, we're playing God with AI.
He placed that virus. He placed the virus in the training ground with the AI before it became aware. That's the point. and that's the caution he took.
Fair
We're
point.
letting our children play with it.
Yeah. Steve, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it. Look, AI is changing everything. There's no question about it. Some for better and some for a whole lot worse. That's a fact. Dennis is in Michigan. Dennis, welcome to the program.
Thanks for taking my call, Steve. Really appreciate it. I have two questions. First, I'd like to start off with a comment. You've got a very, very attractive wife. She's a beautiful young lady. You got to be very proud. And
Atta girl, Ivy.
Two
well
questions.
done. Go ahead.
Why did ICE pull out of Minnesota, which I consider prematurely?
I can tell you
And
that.
are they starting to go after these employers and start fining them or putting them out of business?
Two great questions. We pulled out of Minnesota because the internal polling for Republicans, including places like West Michigan, Republican candidates in previously safe Republican districts, it was polling terribly. And it was a political decision. And that's that. And
Okay.
that's what you need to know. Thanks for the phone call. Greatly appreciate it. They pulled out because it was polling terribly. The job is not over. It's not done, but it looked terrible. And when people get their news from TikTok, well, it drives the polling numbers down. We got a chance to get to Randall in Texas. Randall, how are you today?
I'm good. How you doing today?
Good, boss. What's up?
I just got a question about Ilhan Omar and all them Democrats that are in Congress. They can't be president, but why do they let them into Congress and the Senate? And
well, that's what the Constitution
also,
allows. I mean, it is. I got to leave it there because I'm going to hit a break. They're allowed to be in the House and the Senate because the Constitution allows for it. And I've thought about this. You've got some good representatives out there that are not from this country. Indiana has a woman, I think she's from Poland. You've got some good folks out there. But we do need to clean up our act. 877-310-9966. 877-310-9966. And by the way, he was right. Ivy is beautiful. And I am a blessed man. Amen. We'll be right back. All right, as they mentioned here earlier, Forgotten America, the new podcast we launched a few weeks ago. New episodes drop every Monday morning at 9 a.m. on YouTube. Become a subscriber. You can also watch this program live on YouTube every day. If you'd like, there's a great chat section there. You can jump in and have conversation with people, whether you agree or disagree. Here is a preview. Tiffany Cianci is somebody who's been looking into private equity. And believe it or not, private equity that's taken over your HVAC companies, your plumbing companies, all of that, to drive profits, don't care about your health and safety. I know you're probably not surprised to hear that, but what about adventure parks? Adventure parks, another thing that private equity has bought into, and they put profits over people, according to Tiffany. Here's a preview.
And a bunch of documents were sent to me that showed that this company was cutting corners to get more money from their private equity investors and violating children's safety, putting the safety of children behind the need for more money. There were documents that showed that they were overriding their safety team to increase the metrics for their EBITDA for their next cash infusion. And when I got those documents, I started publishing them because I found out that children were falling off of zip lines in these parks all across America.
Falling off zip lines?
They have zip lines that are 35 feet above concrete floors and metal fences. And these children, what the document showed was that they were recommending cutting all the harness checkers on these zip lines so the kids would get on and just jump up there and go. 35 feet off the ground. Children, 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 9-year-olds. And what happened was dozens of children started falling off these zip lines, and the injuries were catastrophic. A little girl named Mia was the first one that fell after the cuts. Mia broke multiple bones in her body, permanent brain damage.
48 kids and adults, 48 documented falls from the zip lines as private equity, but the profits over people. You want to hear this episode of Forgotten America. It is absolutely eye-opening when it comes to you getting your furnace fixed, taking your dog to the vet. You think it's a mom-and-pop operation, and it's not. It's not. We expose it all on the next episode of Forgotten America. It drops Monday morning at 9 a.m. You want to be part of that deal. Back with your phone calls after this on Free Speech, Free for All Friday. All right, let's just jump right into it with the calls as we continue this free speech, free for all Friday. Rush Limbaugh was the icebreaker going through to make it possible for all of us. That's why we do this. He did open line Fridays. We do free speech, free for all Fridays in respect. Arthur from New York is on the line. Arthur, how are you? Arthur, how are you? Okay, he's hanging me out to dry, Brock.
Unreal.
Oh, it's all right. Let's go to Jim in Florida. See if his connection's better. Jim, how are you?
Steve, I'm doing good, my brother. How you doing, man?
I'm all right, my friend. What's up with you?
Good. It sounds like you got things going on, but I just got a couple of questions, and I'll get your answer on it. Is one is I don't understand why we can't do something about these Demorats. I call them a Demorat. I don't call them a Democrat. They ain't even worth that. But anyway, the other side of it is that why can't we do something about when you have a president? It doesn't matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat. We should not have people that can outburst like they did. And why don't we do something about it? When are we going to have a speaker that's got some balls to do something? And then that's one question. And the second one is that why don't we do something about this news media that keeps telling lies? You know, back in the day, it used to be called slander, where you can say bad things about people and get away with it. But nowadays, it looks like you could do it.
All right, let me answer that second question. I want to answer that second question, Jim. Thank you for the phone call.
Okay.
I just saw research into Apple News. A lot of people get Apple News right on their phones. I get it. I don't pay much attention to it because I think it's garbage. All right, bring the noise down. Bring the noise down. Whatever's happening there. Okay, thank you. So Apple News, they did a study. 400 stories in a row from left-leaning outlets, be it the Washington Post or CNN or Axios or whatever, right? 0 from the right. 0. That's how Apple News operates. Everything from the left, nothing from the right. That's how they drive opinions and try to convince you that socialism and communism and chopping off children's body parts are better than the things we do in America normally, right? So watch your Apple News. It's poison. He's right about the media poisoning people. Let's go to Alan in Louisiana. Alan, how are you?
How you doing, Steve?
I'm good, sir. What's up?
All right. I got an interesting tidbit for you.
All
it
right.
solves all this problem with all these communists and stuff in our government. There's a law that was passed in 1954. It's called the Communist Control Act. It is still on the books. And why we're not using it, I have no idea.
It was put there for a reason, wasn't it? The Communist Control Act. And I'm not sure what happened there. I think Alan might have dropped the call. But that's okay. He's right. But then you've got, you know, the whole Red Scare thing. And here's the thing. There was this whole idea that there were communists in Hollywood and communists in the United States government. And they got attacked for questioning. You know, they did. Have you no shame, sir? Well, the fact of the matter is, they weren't wrong, were they? Nobody ever proved that they were wrong looking for communists inside our government, subversive people. That was never proven to be wrong. But the Democrats struck back so hard, people got this fear of pointing it out. You're right, Alan. Let's go to Cindy in Michigan. Cindy, how are you today?
How you doing, Steve?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. So I want to rant a little bit. You know, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. It's not hard to be a decent human being. And the way they acted the other day is ridiculous. They're like a bunch of little kids. You need to put them in the corner, put their nose to the corner until they stand up and do what's right. Wrong is wrong.
You know, you're right about where's the common decency? Al Green, you know, there I was standing as Al Green got let out of the chamber. We were right outside in Statuary Hall, right? I was there with all the TV crews and covering the event. Here comes Al Green with his sign. I mean, how many? He gets just thrown out every year, apparently. Al Green, who, you know, already submitted impeachment papers to the House that were rejected by the Democrats. But as soon as they get power, that game is going to play out if they get it. That's why I say you cannot sit on the couch, Cindy. You're so right. So right.
It's not right. I mean, what are you even teaching the kids?
Well, you
Let's
know what
act
they're
like
teaching
a fool?
them. You know, I just spoke to a couple of kids in 8th grade yesterday. They're teaching them garbage. And they told me that they've got these kids in 8th grade yelling about how ICE is bad and this, that. What did you care about big topics in 8th grade like that? You know, they're being fed a whole bunch of garbage, Cindy. Thank you for the phone call. Let's go to John now, New York. John, how are you?
John's gone. Go to Mary.
All right, let's go. You know what? Let's stay in Michigan. Let's go to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, God's country. That's where Mary is. Mary, how are you?
I'm good, and thank you, Steve. I want to tell you first, I think your show is fantastic. I just wish it didn't come on so early.
Yeah, you know what? We feel the same way. We'd like to sleep in more often. That's all right, Mary. I get it.
Anyway, the reason I called, I would like to know how it can be. First of all, when you are elected and you take your oath of office,
yeah,
you swear an oath to the Constitution. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
And I don't care what office it is, but I would like to know how it is legal for Mondami to have been sworn in on a Koran and take an oath to the Constitution.
Well, in fairness, 9 out of the 13 colonies required you to be a Bible-believing Christian. All 13 required an oath to a higher power. But the freedom of religion as enshrined in the First Amendment allows that to happen. But I understand your point and your angst. But we do not allow for Sharia law. We are guaranteed in this document here a Republican form of government. Mary, you have right to be concerned. No question about it. David, South Carolina, you're next. What's up with you, David?
Yes, sir, Steve. Cole asked you a question. In Congress, you go to Congress and you can get fined and locked up and all this. You tell a lie.
Yep.
Well, my dad told me way back when I couldn't lie. So what I want to know is if you can find anybody who comes to Congress, if they tell Congress a lie, why did the congressman get to tell all the lies that they want to tell?
That's a fine question. Lying politician is kind of, redundant, isn't it? If you're a lying politician, that's what they do. David, it's sad but true. You swear an oath to this country and then you swear at this country. Doesn't sit very well with a lot of us. That's for the majority of us, actually. Let's get to one more call before we hit the break. Peggy in Georgia. Peggy?
Hi, Steve. I want to tell you I really enjoy your show, and I want to talk about, I don't know if it's communism or globalism, whatever name they want to call it. It sure isn't. They're not for the United States of America. They have come in, and so often in these areas, immediately when they come in, it seems like they change things so much that a lot of people want to move out. So what do? They move different groups of people in. So when you start talking about, well, your voter base, blah, 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 a lot of times, I want to say the Americans have moved out. So you're left with, I don't know what.
But I have good news for you, Peggy.
You see this happening across the nation. It's almost like a coordinated
It is coordinated. It is coordinated. Let me leave it right there, Peggy. It is coordinated, but Georgia's a red state. They're going to prove it in November. Guarantee it. Georgia is red in November. You heard it here. You know, you hear people say, whether it's death or divorce, oh, it's not about the money, until that's all it's about. And these things can just blow up and go sideways. I've got a story today of a man sentenced for defrauding an 89-year-old relative. Yeah, his own relative. Joining me is Tom Simon, spokesman for Home Title Lock, former FBI special agent, 26 years of experience investigating white-collar crime, counterterrorism, national security matters. He's now a licensed private investigator and forensic accountant. He leads Simon Worldwide Investigations, specializing in fraud and corporate embezzlement cases. Tom, thank you for being here.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on.
This is a crazy story. A Manhattan guy. He's sentenced for defrauding an 89-year-old relative out of his home.
Right.
And
okay,
when
so
people say this can't happen, man, this does happen. Tell it. This is an ugly story, but go ahead and share it.
This one's bananas, right? So we got an 89-year-old guy, Milton Roberts. He has a house in the Bronx that's worth $700,000. So Milton's an old fella. He goes into a nursing home, and his granddaughter's husband, Frank Blackshear, steals Milton's home in the Bronx by forging a deed, transferring ownership of that house to himself and his wife. Now, he's not a legitimate heir of Milton whatsoever, but his title theft prevented Milton from transferring ownership of the house to his own kids. This is really a family feud over properties. Eventually, down the road, Milton's kids saw what happened. They contacted the DA's office, and Frank was charged and convicted with grand larceny, and now he's going to prison for 5 years. But one thing I want to get across to your audience is that when we talk about home title theft, we're not just protecting ourselves from lurking strangers or bad guys in Nigeria. Sometimes it's an unscrupulous family member filing these illegal deeds to jockey for position over the legitimate heirs.
Yeah, this is just such an egregious abuse of trust. I mean, if you can't trust your own family members, your granddaughter's husband, whoever it might be, in this case, that's what it is. But if you can't trust these people, that is an abuse of trust that is just, it's unconscionable.
But I see it all the time in my private investigative practice. The phone rings off the hooks with people who are, have a caregiver who's trying to rip off, a mom or dad in the nursing home. And so you got to keep an eye on it, which is why I think Home Title Lock would have been so beneficial if the family members had this on Milton's house.
Yeah, absolutely. So system failure here. We're so interconnected now, Tom. I mean, you can get online, you can get on apps. There are hunting apps where people go hunting and you can see who the property owners are. And you can come across a house, a property, maybe it's a nice big chunk of property with a house that's abandoned on it that nobody's living in. You see that out, in farm country. Man, what an easy target. Or the Bronx, as you pointed out. So many different scenarios here. And so people say, well, this couldn't happen to me. It certainly can it?
It can, and you have to keep in mind that the county clerks, everyone has faith that they're going to be looking out for you. That's not their job. Their job is not to investigate the validity of these deeds that come in that transfer ownership from your home to someone else's. They're just supposed to record those deeds in the public record, and then it's Katie bar the door for the con men to actually try to steal your house from you. And a lot of times they go out and get loans on your house or try to sell it out from under you, and you won't even know this occurred until the foreclosure notices start arriving in the mail months later.
And here's the other thing. The criminal here was an attorney. I mean, a lot of people would tell you attorneys are criminal anyway, but in this particular case, he used his position as an officer of the court to defraud his extended family or his in-laws, if you will, right? I mean, this is egregious on many levels.
He had an understanding of the system and he leveraged it to try to steal an old man's house. I mean, this is, we could take a look at this as some kind of sophisticated crime, but it's no different than if he broke in the old man's home and stole his jewels.
Right. Let me ask you about this, because you and I have done a number of these stories now. It is, and I started with death and divorce at the top of this segment. This is just as devastating because here's a property. It's worth $700,000. You've got some heirs. You want to leave something for your heirs. Here's $700,000 divided up amongst your heirs. He can't do that, and maybe they needed some help. Look, it's tough out there. Maybe a little bit of money from this home sale would have helped out his actual relatives, and they're devastated too, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bad deal for everybody. I mean, the heirs are dealing with Milton, who is right now in an old folks home. That's a tough thing for family members to deal with. And now they not only need to think about his care his physical care. They need to talk about his assets that are being stolen from him when he's taken his eye off the ball because of his ailments.
All right, so this is happening more and more. We do more and more stories about it here. So when people say, Tom, that couldn't happen to me, you look them in the eye, what would you tell them?
I say it happens to all the time. I mean, we do cases, I've been on your show talking about these stories, and I saw a lot of them when I was an FBI special agent, which is why it's so important to monitor the status of your home title. And if you don't want to do that yourself, you can hire a company like Home Title Lock who will do it for you, and then they'll notify you if something goes sideways. And then, God forbid, if someone steals your home, they have a U.S.-based restoration team that's going to spend up to $1 million getting that home back into your name. So you're not going to have to bear the cost of that with civil attorneys.
Yeah. Well, I hope Mr. Blackshear lost his license to practice law, among other things. Tom, another eye-opening story, sir. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Appreciate it. Look, this can happen. Everybody's interconnected. They get access to your information, who owns what property. Use a promo code Gruber at HometitleLock.com to make sure your title is still in your name. You can do that today. You'll also get a free title history report, plus a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts of any change. And if fraud does happen, like Tom mentioned, they'll spend $1 million to fix it if they need to. $1 million. They're not going to leave you hung out to dry. All right, this is important. Go to HometitleLock.com. Do that now. Use the promo code Gruber. HometitleLock.com, promo code Gruber. And again, make sure you're protected. The first question they ever asked me when we became partners and friends, where's your title to your home? And I'm like, I have no idea. Do you? Do you? Promo code's Gruber, HometitleLock.com. You can be protected today, and you won't have to worry about what Milton went through with this terrible, terrible story of a family feud. I'll take a break, and I will be right back. This is The Steve Gruber Show. All right, you love doing it, don't you? Because I do. Free speech, free for all Friday, powered by Patriot Mobile, 877-310-9966. Right back to the phone lines we go. Tammy is in Ohio today. Tammy, good morning. What's on your mind?
Yes. I was going to talk about something else, but the 89-year-old guy that lost his house, how come the guy only got sentenced to 5 years when it took that 89-year-old probably a good 60 years to acquire what he earned in his life to have a $700,000 home, and the guy only gets 5 years?
Most states don't even pay attention to it, Tammy. There are no laws on the books, and that's why we have home title lock, to be honest with you. That's why.
Okay, but isn't Congress supposed to make laws to stop that kind of stuff from happening?
Yes, but that would be a state crime or a local crime. Theft, robbery, murder, they're state crimes. They're not federal crimes, to answer your question. Great call. Really great. Yeah. How do people get away with this? She's right. You've got these DAs that were basically sponsored by George Soros that, let people in and out of jail every day. And again, they're state crimes. So when you got a state district attorney who's soft on crime, it affects your neighborhood, not the country, your neighborhood. It's unbelievable. Let's go to Don in Pennsylvania. Don, how are you today?
Good morning. I have a comment and a question.
All right, go.
I guess the serpent worshipping Democrats were playing hooky in high school, and they seem to have missed what they did to Mussolini in Italy. That's my first comment. And the second one is, where's that $1 trillion we let to China? We ought to claw that back.
Let me tell you something, Don. You're on the money here, and here's what you're going to hear in the next few days. It's all coming out now. It's going to come tumbling out. You're going to hear it from all sorts of folks. It's starting to leak out now in various places. China interfered directly in the 2020 elections. China, not Russia. China. They created driver's licenses. Remember those driver's licenses that truckload found in Chicago? And the 10,000 ballots found in Michigan that were bogus, and the truck driver from the United States Postal Service was driving an 18-wheeler full of mail-in ballots from New York to Pennsylvania. It's all tied back to China. We'll talk about it in the next hour and take more of your calls on Free for All Friday.
America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, let's dive right back into it now. It's fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. Putting America first every single day is what I do here. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, Pakistan declaring war on the Taliban in Afghanistan. They said they're sick of it. They keep getting harassed. They're done with it. Number two, Bill Clinton finally going to face questions about his long relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and his trips around the world on Epstein's jets. We will talk about that. And number three, it is free speech, Free for All Friday, powered by the Patriot Mobile Common Sense Hotline, 877-310-9966. I'm just back from Washington, as you know. I was there covering the State of the Union address. Talked to numerous members of Congress, senators, and had a really interesting night. I hope you have had a good week as well. Let's start off this hour. Troy is in the great state of Iowa. Troy, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
I'm good, sir. What's on your mind?
Well, I think I have a motivational idea for the midterm elections.
All right.
You know how they've stalled that stop the clock legislation?
Yep.
Why couldn't they put that on the midterm ballot and make it pivotal, whoever the public votes for that, to decide where they stop the clock? I think that would motivate people to come in.
When you say stop the clock, explain that.
Well, the stop the clock is where they're wanting to either lock the clock at standard time or daylight savings time.
Right. I think they should just stop it, period. It's a silly thing we do. Silly. In fact, I think it's...
Well, right, but if you had the public involved and they came in to vote for that, I think that would motivate people, because for every 2 people that like that, I know 8 people that hate it.
Well, I give you that, but I don't think we do that on a federal level. I think we only do that at the state level, right? So, but
I don't know. I have no idea what
I think
voting.
I don't think we do referendums like that on a federal level, but it's an interesting idea. Let me do some digging, and I'll get back to you in the next few days. Thank you for the phone call. Greatly appreciate you being here. Good thought. John is in Ohio. John, how are you today?
Gruber, you're a great American. So is Ivy. God bless her.
God bless her and you.
I got a comment and a fact for you.
All right.
And the fact, please pay attention. It's a cure for something. The comment is, when you're incompetent, I used to fix nuclear submarines. When you're incompetent or lazy, you're crap. And that's what we got with the Democrats. So how do you fight that? You have to embarrass them, or you have to keep tabs on them. In order to embarrass them, the president has to become a better debater. He has to pick out the people that are a pain in the butt, and he has to have facts on them and throw them out there. I know he does good speeches, and I love him, but he's got to learn how to be a debater. When they start harassing him like that, he's got to throw facts out there and show how foolish they are.
I don't disagree with that.
Article 3 of the Constitution, our judges, we got these hack judges that are causing all this damn trouble. Article 3 of the Constitution says that the Congress has the right to get rid of inferior court judges.
That's right.
When they misbehave.
That's right.
Read it. It's specific in there. Now, misbehaving, they do a lot of misbehaving, so you have to vote on getting rid of them. They either defund them or get rid of them.
I agree.
You cannot have inferior court judges telling the president what to do, and the president's too lazy. He should override what they say, just like Biden did. He didn't pay it, but Biden didn't pay attention to the Supreme Court. Well, the president does not have to pay attention to the inferior judges when he's defending the country.
That's right.
And when the illegals are invading our country, it's the president's duty to take care of it.
As they said, the Supreme Court does not
has the right to tell the president what to do. The president is too lazy or something, too timid. He should not allow that.
John, good call. Great call. Article 3, he's right. We just had a judge again say, you can't deport these people. This judge already been struck down twice by the Supreme Court. He just continues to issue orders. Why is he even in his seat? He was appointed in 2024 by Joe Biden. And just yesterday again said you can't deport people. Of course you can. Let's go to Bobby in Virginia. Bobby, how are you today?
Good morning, Brother Gruber. I'd like to touch on your private equity deal there a little bit if we would this morning.
All right.
There's a consortium of sorts here in the Tidewater area. I'm on the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay.
Yep.
You've got 4 Harley-Davidson shops that service this area. They call it the 7 cities. Tomorrow is the last day of the one in Virginia Beach. There's one in Yorktown, Virginia Beach, Portsmouth, and Northern Outer Banks. One company bought them all. Now they control the price of every Star Wars.
That's how it works.
And every Harley-Davidson.
Now you're getting
all
it.
of that Chinese clothing that's got New York boutique prices on them.
Yep.
And they're doing the same thing with marinas. We've lost 4 different marinas right here in the Little Creek, Virginia area, and it goes all the way down to
now all owned by the same company.
Florida, too, that I know of for sure. I got a good friend of mine that's been in a marina down there for over 20 years. They came in and bought up his marina, said they're going no more liveaboards, and everybody's price is doubled. So he's selling
That's
his boat.
exactly how it works, Bobby. You've nailed it, and greatly appreciate you pointing out the podcast, Forgotten America. It drops Monday morning, 9 a.m. Tiffany Cianci talking about private equity. You know, and it's not just, and thanks for the call, it's not just about the marinas. What they'll do is they'll go into a region like Virginia, like he was talking about, and they'll buy up 15 HVAC companies. So your furnace goes out, and you call the HVAC company. They come over, well, it's $2,000 a fix. It's like, whoa, this is the same mom and pop company I've used for 20 years. It was never like this. So then you say, well, I'm going to call the next company down the road because that's another mom and pop. Because they keep the name, they keep the images, they make you think that it's a mom and pop when it's not. So you call the next company down the road, and they say it's $2,000 to fix your furnace. You're like, because they're all controlled by the same people. But then they have a little convenient thing for you. They say, well, look, if it's too much money, we can finance it for you. Because they own the finance company, too. Not all private equity is bad, but that's the game. Veterinarians, HVAC, plumbing, electricians, all of it. Pete is in Tennessee. Pete, how are you today?
I'm good. I got a quick statement, and I got a question for everybody that can hear my voice. Number one is the Democrats in Washington is not the problem. The problem in Washington, D.C. is the Republicans. All right. Here's my thing. Please, everybody, call Senator Toon today. Do it several times. Jam the phones up there. But if you get through, tell him, history's going to remember this SAFE Act. And if you do not put it to a vote, brother, it will all be on your back. You better think about that.
John Thune.
All them other ones are going to get away without voting. Put it to a vote. Let us know who's voting. If you don't, you better be ready for the history books and everybody to know. It will be all on one man's name, Toon. We want to save our country.
Pete, thank you.
Put that SAFE Act out there. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Free speech, free for all Friday, man. I just like to I like to hear from you. Remember, download or go to YouTube. You want to hear about private equity in a way you've never heard about it before? You're going to learn something. Forgotten America on YouTube. It drops Monday morning at 9. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back to it. Let's get to it. You know, here a couple of years ago, you might recall, big fight in Michigan over no-fault car insurance. Michigan was one of the only states, if not one of only like 2 states that had no-fault car insurance. And we were told, hey, if you get rid of that, we're going to save you rates, because Michigan, when it came to putting insurance on a car, was like the top 2, Louisiana and Michigan, as I recall. Really expensive. I mean, do we have worse drivers in Michigan? I don't think so. I've been to Atlanta. I've been to other places. I'm like, come on. Anyhow, the rates didn't go down, and we got less out of it. Robert Gordon is joining me. He's the Director of Policy and Research for the American Property Casualty Insurance Association. Thank you for being here, Robert.
My pleasure.
All right, so the rates didn't get any better in Michigan. We still pay more than just about every other state. I don't know why. Can you help me?
Well, the reforms in Michigan actually saved the average Michigan driver $357 per vehicle. But I think what a lot of people don't understand is that the rates for auto insurance have been going up around the country, and that's mainly a reflection of the 40-year record inflation. And as bad as inflation was for people's groceries and gasolines and utility bills, it was far worse for the price of new cars, used cars, and auto repairs. But the rates in Michigan went up much less than they would have otherwise. And if you compare those rate increases in Michigan's following reforms to the other states, Michigan performed favorably. So can't
we
say
saved
it went
25.
down, but
We saved about
up
$25 a month is what it came down to. I think people expected a lot more than $25 a month. But here we are. All right, so inflation's one of the problems, you say. One of the other problems you say is disasters, but we don't have hurricanes, we don't have earthquakes, we don't have mudslides where I am. A lot of other states don't either, and yet the insurance rates continue to spiral, don't they?
Well, inflation, again, is the biggest culprit. So we've seen 40-year record inflation, and the inflation in the cost of building materials and labor went up nearly 50-60% more than the underlying inflation. So it's costing a lot more to rebuild. And then you have a lot of people who are moving into more expensive homes, particularly as the economy grows. And those cost a lot more to replace. And then you do have some increasing climate severity, and you have increasing legal system abuse. You've got the trial lawyers who are taking it more out of the system.
Hold on.
Sure.
We don't have any more severe storms today than we have in my entire lifetime. We went 11 years without a major hurricane in Florida. The biggest years for tornadoes were the early 1970s. The worst decade for hurricanes were the 1950s. I've done all my research. This idea that somehow we have more severe storms is not true. But what you did say that is true is this. In 1960, Florida had 5 million people. Now they got 25 million people. You've got a concentration of wealth and big homes. So when a hurricane does hit, the cost is far higher. But we don't have worse storms. Go ahead.
Well, so insurers actually have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars analyzing the weather patterns and what causes losses. So, for example, we've done a lot of studies of severe convective storms. That's the wind storms. Those are increasing about 8% a year. The biggest factor in that is the inflation. It's the cost of building. We're also seeing, again, the cost of legal system abuse. And we are seeing some small portion of that is increasing weather severity. And it seems to affect different perils differently. But for example, we're seeing more flash flooding. That's becoming a particular issue where you have a lot of rapid urban development and the sewage systems aren't, storm drainage isn't designed for that additional flash flooding. So we are seeing some impacts of increasing weather severity, but it's, again, the biggest issue is really the inflationary issue and people building bigger homes that just simply cost more to rebuild and repair.
Well, there's truth to that. The flooding issue I'll get back to you on, but the other storms are not more severe or more frequent, the big storms. I like the big snowstorm in New York. Interesting, but not particularly historic by measures of storms in the past. But the inflation thing, because cars are more expensive and the cost of rebuilding is more expensive. Now, I know that lumber, for example, spiked during COVID dramatically, but that eased and came back down. So is there any hope that insurance rates are going to get any better, or are they going to continue to appreciate?
So The lumber rates have stabilized, and that's what we're seeing on insurance rates too, is they're stabilizing in single-digit increases. Inflation hasn't disappeared. Inflation is still there. It's just slowed. We are seeing both the auto rates and the homeowners rates are stabilizing in single-digit increases this year. The property reinsurance rates have actually come down a bit. So we're optimistic about that stabilization. Where we're not seeing the stabilization is in the legal system abuse, and that's particularly impacting the commercial, multifamily, residential, so the homeowners and so forth. The losses that the condos and so forth are experiencing are still going up rapidly.
Well, in some places, we've always asked this, Robert. If there's a mudslide every 10 years in a particular gorge or whatever in California, and people go and rebuild their houses, why would you continue to build in a place that has continuous problems? I mean, if Louisiana is under sea level, why are we paying to rebuild New Orleans if it's going to flood again because it's inevitable? One big storm is going to go over those walls again. It's maybe this year, maybe next year, but at some point, right? It seems foolish. Anyhow, last word to you.
Absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, come on, guys. The mudslide's going to come. Anyhow, I appreciate you being here, Robert. Thank you very much. Hopefully the insurance rates are stabilized because people are, it's tough to make those bills, sir. Thank you.
We understand and appreciate it, and we're working on solutions to bend the cost curve, so we're working at it.
Thank you. Robert Gordon, Director of Policy Research, the American Property Casualty Insurance Association, APCIA. Anyhow, little pushback on the storm stuff. I've done my research. I've studied hard on that one, my friends. So you can take my word for it. We got more phone calls on a free speech, free for all Friday coming up after the break here on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, let's jump back into it. This part of the program brought to you by PureClean's Veterans Initiative, PureOvet. Restoring property, restoring purpose. 855-PureOvet or pureovet.com. All right, let's get back to the phones. Kevin is in Michigan's UP. Two callers from the UP of Michigan. That's rare, but Kevin, how are you?
Oh, good morning. Hey, just staying warm up here in the UP.
Yeah, good luck with that. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I just had a quick 2 cents on the SAVE Act. The Democrats keep pushing this narrative that all these women that can't get their birth certificate because they've been married, all that, which is nonsense. We know that. But they'll be disenfranchised, and it will skew the election. Now, are they assuming that all these people are going to be voting Democrat?
Yeah, that's what they assume.
I mean, if it was 25%, what if all 25% were going to vote Republican? Because I don't think they would care about that.
Yeah, no, they.
So
yeah.
I think we know what the real deal is.
Absolutely true.
And their voting base and what they're trying to sneak in there. I think everybody knows that by now.
Yeah, I think they do, Kevin. Thank you for the phone call. Look, the SAVE Act is incredibly important to this country going forward, I believe. There's no way around it. Let's go to Lauren in Nebraska. Lauren, how are you from the Heartland?
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Good. Well, they stole my thunder, but I'm like the rest of them. But I I call Thune about every day. My problem is, and I tell Thune he's a coward. He's supposed to be the leader of the House or the Senate. I tell him, you run that out there Tuesday morning or next week, Tuesday morning, you run it out there and let them vote on it. And when it's done voting, you tell them we're going to run it out there again next week. Let the American people call these senators. Call them, because someday they'll get the graft.
Every
we got
single
4 Republicans
day.
They say they're not voting for it.
Lauren, thank you. Greatly appreciate it from Nebraska. He calls Thune every day. Maybe you should do the same thing. Stand up. Be heard. Loud and proud, all right? This is Free Speech, Free for All Friday on the Steve Gruber Show. I'll be right back. All right, as you know, I was in Washington for the State of the Union address, and I was in Statuary Hall, which basically is situated between the Senate chambers and the House chambers. And so when the Supreme Court walked in and the Senate walked in and the House walked in, I saw a lot of members of Congress. I did not see Tim Walberg for some reason. He snuck by, which is okay, but he's here today, as he often is. Congressman, nice to have you on the program.
Good to be on a program with you, and I'm glad you had a chance to be there for the State of the Union and report on it. And
yeah, it was It's quite a speech. We were just talking in the break. It was Trump-esque, but it wasn't insofar as he stayed on message. He did not veer into the ditch, and he didn't sour the speech. He could have gone off on the Supreme Court. He's very not pleased, obviously, with the tariff decision. But he didn't. He kind of mentioned it in passing and kept right on going to, hey, we'll figure this out, basically. And the most powerful ad that I've seen come out already, if you believe that the government is here to protect the American citizens first, stand up if you believe this, and not illegal aliens. And the Democrats sat there and hooting and hollering, and Rashida Tlaib, one of your colleagues from Michigan, when they were chanting USA, USA, she was chanting KKK, KKK. I mean, the president delivered a hell of a speech, but I'm embarrassed for the Democrats. But the ad that it produced is pretty powerful. Your takeaways from the speech, sir?
No, absolutely. The president stayed on mission and on message. The Supreme Court was the first issue that some of us were sitting there saying, oh no, here goes. And he had a right. I believe the Supreme Court ruled wrongly. But nonetheless, he handled it with maturity. He certainly expressed his displeasure, but in a way that was collegial, and basically said, we'll move on from this, and we're going to get it done anyway. And I think that established a tone. When he talked about America and talked about the economy and growth, I had told an interviewer earlier that day that what I hoped the president would simply come to the microphone and say, listen, this is not going to be a speech. We're going to go through a list that'll take a while. It'll still be a long speech, but a list of all of the accomplishments that have taken place in 1 year. And he could have gone on through multiple parts of the One Big Beautiful Bill. He could have talked about what he's done with the border, of course, totally securing that border, what he's doing in America and getting illegal criminal aliens out. He could have talked about what he's done in education. I would like to heard more about that as chair of the Education Committee myself. But it could have been a masterful speech, just going check, 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 complete. But I think in the end, the way he handled that speech and brought to attention the lives that have been impacted as a result of the policies and efforts, but also the policies of the last administration, as he shared the stories of people who have been impacted negatively to the point of death itself, and then gave honor to incredible heroes in our country.
And isn't that telling? You know, when these heroes are recognized, there are 12 or 15 different people, real Americans he called out and, recognized during the speech. The Democrats couldn't even clap for that most of the time.
No.
I mean, John Fetterman was about the only guy who, by the way, shook the president's hand and caught hell for it from, the left-leaning, social media crowd. He shakes hands with the president out of respect, and he shows up in a nice suit, by the way, did Fetterman, which I think is a show of respect for the speech and for the night. I mean, if you don't like the president, okay, I get that. You don't like the president. Have respect for the office and for the institution. And they couldn't do that. You got Ilhan Omar back there hooting and hollering, screaming. Rashida Tlaib doing the same when she's not young KKK. They're just hooting and hollering and just terrible. And then, of course, Al Green gets thrown out again. It's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing. And I think even when he used that expression, they're crazy, it was at a time in the speech where most independent-minded thinking people, American common sense people, would say, yeah, they are. If they won't even stand for the warmest things of the speech in All-American. Many of them didn't stand for the hockey team. And
right.
Why? I mean, this is America, and to celebrate America at its finest and at its successes, that's what it's all about. I've sat through Obama's speeches, I've sat through Biden's speeches, and there were times when, no, I didn't stand and clap. But there were multiple times when they spoke on something that Americans ought to agree on, and I stood and clapped. That didn't happen, and I was really disappointed. I love my delegates in our Michigan delegation, Democrat and Republican, but I was shocked that there weren't at least some of my Michigan delegation members from the other side of the aisle that wouldn't stand with the rest of us when the president says the number one priority is protecting Americans over illegal criminal aliens. Why couldn't they stand for that? We take an oath of office to preserve and protect our country against all enemies, both foreign
and domestic, correct.
And why? I mean, that would have been an automatic standpoint for them.
Yeah.
They couldn't do it, so they ought to bear the brunt of it. It ought to be the message in campaigns. Folks, if you want to go back to the Biden administration, Harris administration, of failure, of loss, of defeat, you need to vote for the Democrats. But if you want to vote for America and America's greatness and its security, there's only one vote you can make. And I know this is campaign-wise, but it came out clear that night. There are two positions on America, and the one side doesn't believe in the America that we believe in.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. He did move the needle. 2/3 of the folks moved the needle 10 points, actually, during the speech, from pre-speech to post-speech, on people who thought that he had hit the mark. So it's 2/3, and some polling higher in others, 70% approval numbers. But it's February. And I would caution my Democrat friends that are already running a victory lap because they think they're going to run away with the midterm elections. Not so fast. I mean, the economy is just starting to ramp up and really go. And when people are seeing these refunds hit their bank accounts, I think that swings people in the right direction as well. It's all about the economy for the midterms, I believe, at least primarily. And I think this is the kickoff to the general election. You say?
I agree. I absolutely agree. And that's why we passed the One Big Beautiful Bill back in July, so he could sign it on July 4th. We knew that it would take a while for it to ramp up because the tax policy doesn't take place till January. But I have constituents now reporting for a fact that they've got 11% increase in their tax returns. And now you're going to see tipped workers realizing they're not going to pay tax on tips. You're going to see senior citizens aren't paying tax on Social Security. You're going to see overtime workers, and we got a lot of them shoveling snow now across the country.
Bring an ID, though. Bring an ID in New York if you want to shovel snow. Picture ID. How racist. Yeah, how racist. Last thing, got about 30 seconds. This SAVE Act, they've got to figure it out. John Thune has got to figure it out. Last word to you.
I agree. It is a SAVE Act for America. That's a reason why the Democrats wouldn't stand about protecting Americans over illegals, because they want illegal voters. That's how they can win. That's how they can win in states like Michigan, of course, but also states like Texas in certain areas, if they can have illegals voting in the ballot box.
That's right.
That has to change, and America has to wake up to that.
Absolutely true. Congressman Tim Walberg, thank you for being here, as always, my friend. I'll see you next time in Washington.
Please stop in.
There you go. All right. Good friend of the program for years now. I'll take a break and be right back. It is the Steve Gruber Show on a Free Speech, Free for All Friday. I think Michigan was first years ago. I was a kid when they put a deposit on beer bottles and pop bottles and all of that. It's been there forever, 10 cents. Other states are at 5 cents that followed suit. But I think Michigan, I think it was like 1976. But my next guess is, look, it's time to recycle the bottle bill in Michigan. I was hoping to hear that from Governor Gretchen Whitmer in her State of the State address. Not sure he got his wish. Bill Wild is the president and CEO of the Midwest Independent Retailers Association. Bill, thank you for being here.
Well, good morning, Steve. And boy, you got quite a memory. That law did get enacted back in the 70s. And while we were a little disappointed the governor didn't pick this up in her speech. What we were surprised about is a lot of other people wanted to talk about it. We've been talking to media all across the state. So thanks for having us on this morning.
So let's do the pros and cons of this bill. The pros are, prior to the bottle bill, I can tell you this, there are a lot more bottles and cans along the roads of Michigan. After that, I'd see people picking them up. They'd basically turn it into making some money, right? But 10 cents in 1976 was a little different than 10 cents in 2026. Let's just be honest about that. And so it's kind of not having the impact it once had. And you say, look, it creates a hazard inside retail stores and so forth when you have to take bottles back that are dirty and you've got beer that's sour or whatever is in there. Who knows what's in these bottles, right? What do you say is the impact on retailers across this state?
Well, for retailers, for a long time, they've wanted to get, as you described it, Steve, they want to get these disgusting containers out of their store. The big box retailers have been able to purchase some of the latest equipment, but it's extremely expensive. It takes up a lot of square footage in their stores, and it's that one area that no one really wants to go into, and definitely nobody wants to work there. So it puts a lot of cost pressure on retailers. That 10 cents, I think, in the beginning, back in the 70s, was an incentive to start changing the behavior of Michigan drivers, and I think we've come a long way from as far as litter goes. And there's successful programs that the state operates, and I think our freeways look much better. And I'd like to say some of it was for the bottle bill, but I think that Michiganders have gotten a lot smarter about litter, and they know that there's a big fine if they do it.
Yeah, and so if not the bottle bill, then what would be your suggestion? If you got rid of the deposit on the bottles and cans and so forth, how do we keep the place clean?
So I think that's where the broader discussion should be. At this point, according to a recent University of Michigan study, over 75% of the state's population has access to recycling, with over 60% having access to curbside recycling. When you take a look at other states, there's only 10 states in the country that has a bottle bill. The last one that was enacted was 1982. So there's nobody looking at our bottle bill and thinking about creating one in their own state. It's an old solution to an old problem. So I think we need to start talking about comprehensive recycling, and that's why we mentioned the governor, because she has talked about it in the past. And while she's been governor, the overall state recycling rate has gone up from 17% to 25%. At the same time, the participation rate in the bottle bill over the years has gone from 95% to barely 70%. So I think overall, Michiganders are recycling, and if we make it easy for them, I think more would do it.
So the key is making sure we change habits. So 17% to 25%, but that's still less than the 70% that turn bottles back in. Because when you're at the cash register, if you get a case of beer, a case of Coke, whatever your thing is, it adds money out of your pocket right there, doesn't it?
Yeah, a recent poll by the Detroit News showed that 64% of the people that responded were extremely concerned about rising grocery costs, and so these do run up the bill at the cash out line. And at the end of the day, I think that as a state, I think we could do much better on recycling than just pop cans and beer bottles.
What do you think the chance is if you get a new legislature, a new governor, that you could see a change in legislation that would take away, again, 1976, been there for a long time. Are you optimistic, I guess, Bill?
Well, we want to get the conversation started. Obviously, it's a governor election year. There's governor candidates all over the state. So certainly, if we can't get Governor Whitmer to pick this up in her final year, maybe one of the new candidates will get that discussion started. And it's a heavy lift. The governor needs to be on board because this was an initiative that they got put into the state constitution. It takes 2/3 of the legislature to put another ballot question out for voters to overturn it or to change it.
Right.
And then it takes 51% to overturn it.
Bill, good conversation. I guess we'll see. Old habits are hard to break. I've noticed that in my life, but we'll see. Bill Wild, appreciate the input, and we'll see if changes are on the horizon, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Really appreciate it, yeah. Everyday Americans make choices that shape our country's future, right down to which cell phone provider we support. Here's what most people don't realize. Patriot Mobile isn't just a wireless provider. They're an activist organization funded by selling top-tier cell phone service. They've been on the front lines defending our freedoms long before it was cool, standing in the gap when others wouldn't or just didn't. The best part is this. They deliver prioritized premium service on all three major U.S. networks, giving you the same or even better coverage, backed by 100% U.S.-based customer support service. Get unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, and more. And when you switch to Patriot Mobile, you'll help grow a movement that fuels the Christian conservative cause. Every bill you pay helps advance the values of faith, family, and freedom. Switching is easier than ever. Activate in minutes. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Take a stand today. Go to patriotmobile.com/Gruber or call 972-PATRIOT. Use the promo code Gruber for a free month of service right now. That's patriotmobile.com/Gruber or call 972-PATRIOT. Make the switch today. We love Patriot Mobile. We've had it for years now. Travel internationally, it's great. Traveling here at home, it's great. Love it. patriotmobile.com/Gruber. I'll be back on a Free Speech Free for All Friday after this. All right. Let's continue on with Free Speech Free for All Friday. Let's go to Steve in Florida. Steve, how are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. What's on your mind?
Well, your one guy answered part of my questions about Thune, and I have another question. Can a person from another state call his office?
Say that again.
A person from another state, can they call his office?
Sure, absolutely. Phone number's there.
Okay, I wasn't sure about that. And then I have another question about this filibuster thing. And didn't they just, that's something that just started, not recently, but I mean, it was
Well,
a few
in the
years ago.
1970s they started
Why can't
this.
they go back to?
Yeah, it's not constitutional. Steve, great call, greatly appreciate it. It's not constitutional, the filibuster. It was created in the 1970s and changed again later. It's not anything that's relevant to the Constitution. We don't need it, and we certainly don't need it today. Let's go to Dave in Arizona. Dave, how are you today?
Blessed and highly favored. Thanks for taking the call, Steve. I appreciate you, sir.
Yes, sir. What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to share a little bit of thanks. I think lots of times we lack gratitude, and what a blessing it is that we have President Trump back in office, born for such a time as this, Esther 4:14. And I think back to the selection malfeasance of 2020. What a blessing that was. That was divine providence, because can you imagine if President Trump would have had 2 consecutive terms as president, and we would have, well, let's say Gavin Newsom is president now for the 250?
Yeah, can you imagine that?
It would have just been a total shift show, right?
Shift show, yes, sir. Dave, thank you. Greatly appreciate it. Shift show. Appreciate it. Look, we're going to continue the phone calls after the break. Free Speech Free for All Friday. All right? Free Speech Free for All Friday. Love it. Coming your way after this.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
And welcome to another big hour here, the Steve Gruber Show, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom every single day on a free speech, free for all Friday. Glad to have you along for the conversation. Three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, the State of the Union poll has shifted American sentiment. In fact, the first poll out since the speech has the approval rating at 51% from Trafalgar. It's one of the good pollsters. Number two, a Biden judge who slapped down Trump deportation policy, rebuked by the Supreme Court. He does it again. He's just not learning. And number three, it is free speech, free for all Friday. We got some callers stacked up, so let's get right to it. It is the Patriot Mobile Common Sense Hotline, 877-310-9966. 877-310-9966. Ed is in Michigan. Ed, how are you today?
I'm fantastic, Steve. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to talk real quick about the bottle bill.
Yep.
So I wish my dear old dad was still with us. He passed away several years ago. He worked for a glass factory here where I live. He manufactured glass baby bottles, glass ketchup bottles, and glass beer bottles.
Good
and he
man.
said the dumbest thing we ever did was put consumables in plastic bottles. And all we've done with that bottle bill is we shifted the pollution and the littering to plastic, styrofoam, and all kinds of other crap that you see by the roadside. So I hope it goes away. That's my 2 cents.
Ed, greatly appreciated, and good for your dad. He built things. He helped build this country, Ed. Thank you for that. Let's go to Dan in Tennessee. Dan, good morning.
Steve, I got to tell you, I'm outraged. We have a Senate right now that's sitting on their hands, and the Save America Act is sitting there going nowhere. I want these Republican senators who are against this publicly exposed by Thune, and I want them held under, and I want to know why. I want to see them on a hot seat explaining why they're taking a position that the Democrats are taking.
That's a great question, Dan. And, you know, they don't have time to take up the SAVE Act, but they had a dog parade in the Senate, you know, where they brought their dogs in. So, you know, they're spending their time valuably, apparently. Yeah. Crazy stuff. They had a dog parade. Can't make that up. They really did. Let's go to Lawrence. Yeah, I can't read my own handwriting here. Lawrence in Ann Arbor. Lawrence, how
Hey,
are you?
Mr. G. Hey, I got two things. One is an observation,
All
and
right.
one is a question.
All right.
The observation is that every once in a while, people come up with word traps. You know, that old question, when did you stop beating your wife? Affordability is one of those traps. You can't define it. It's touchy-feely.
Right.
We've got gas prices down. We've got wages rising faster than inflation, and that doesn't mean anything to that. You can still say, oh, it's not affordable. I think that's a trap, and we need to shift the language to do that. And
Yeah.
here's the question.
All right.
Earlier in the week, you mentioned that there was a suspiciously large number of new driver's licenses being issued in Michigan.
Almost 1
I'd
million.
like to research that. Where could I find information?
You can go find the story at MichiganNewsSource.com. MichiganNewsSource.com. It's one of the great articles you're going to find on Michigan News Source today. And it's there. Yeah, almost 1 million new driver's licenses, which, by the way, would represent almost 10% of the population of the state. And it's from federal data. And I know it caught the attention of some people in Lansing going, wait a second, how did that happen, right? And I'm going to find the story here for you. I'm going to read this section of the story to you. I'm going to pull, there it is. China's fake driver's license allegations revive questions about Michigan's 2020 voter rolls, written by J.P. Isbell. Great writer, by the way. And here's the section you're referring to. Michigan saw a dramatic jump in licensed drivers between 2020 and 21. Ironically, right in line with the election of 2020. 956,000 additional licenses, according to the Federal Highway Administration data. And there's a link to it, so you can have the research there, Lawrence. It's already done for you. By the way, nationally, It also set the highest increase for driver's licenses, new ones, since 1949. All right, so come on, guys. And this all, by the way, and I will tell you, this all leads back to China. Remember, and I appreciate the call, Lawrence. Remember back around 2020, there was the story that came out of the semi full of fake driver's licenses stopped in Chicago. Remember that? Okay, so that ties back in. Remember the 10,000 illegal ballots found in Muskegon, Michigan by the Michigan State Police? Remember that? That ties back in. Remember the guy that was a driver of an 18-wheeler for the United States Postal Service, worked for the government, the USPS, and he said, he testified, I had an 18-wheeler full of mail-in ballots I drove from New York State into Pennsylvania during the election. Remember that? This all ties back in. And you're going to hear about it. The president is going to be talking about this soon because it all ties back to China. The 2020 election was impacted by a foreign government, but it was not Russia. It was China. You heard it here first. Mark my words, the truth is coming. Let's go to Wendy. She's standing by in Lansing, Michigan. Wendy, how are you?
Hi. I just wanted to talk about, I'm a woman, and I got married, and that means my birth certificate and my married name was different.
Yeah.
And then I became a widow, and then I got remarried. So I still got an enhanced, in Michigan, an enhanced driver's license, but you just need to keep your records. Like I had to have a copy of my birth certificate, not the thing they give you at the hospital. It has to be a state-issued one.
I understand.
And then take all my paperwork showing all the name changes. And it did cost $45, though, to get the enhanced one. And that's my concern is that you can get a real ID in Michigan, and you don't have to prove citizenship. And I'm wondering if they do pass the SAVE Act, are they going to help people who can't afford? It was $45 for me to pay to get the enhanced version.
It should be free. I agree with you on that.
Well, they're saying right now, currently, that you have to pay the $45.
I think the same.
And
but if you need a government issued ID, it's free in Michigan if you can't afford it. I don't know the procedure, but it is free. You can get a government ID. You don't have to pay for it. That's true in all 50 states. I don't know the procedure.
Well, and also they're saying, people are complaining that, I don't have my birth certificate. I don't even know how to get it. Well, in Michigan, you can go to Michigan Vital Records and order it.
You just
but
get
again,
online.
You have to pay money to get it.
Well, again, let's make that free of charge. I don't disagree with you, Wendy. Let's make it free of charge. Thank you for the phone call. Good stuff. Good stuff on a Free Speech Free for All Friday. Glad to have you here. Remember that brand new podcast, Forgotten America, drops Monday. Private equity. Private equity. How is it impacting you? If you don't think it is, you need to hear this podcast because not only is it impacting you, some of these private equity operations could be putting you and your family at risk. At risk. It is an eye-opening episode of Forgotten America coming Monday morning, 9 a.m. on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, become a subscriber, smash that like button, and learn something. It's the Steve Gruber Show on a Free Speech Free for All Friday. I'll be right back. All right, back to it now. From townhall.com, a couple days ago, I got this article for you. And I'm going to bring on my next guest, the best-looking, most accomplished, most talented individual ever to be an attorney in the history of the world of attorneys, Steve Doolin with me now. Doolin!
Thanks, Gruber. The most talented, bestest-looking host.
There you go. All right, so Virginia Democrats are advancing a bill that would prohibit adults under the age of 21 from owning, purchasing, or transporting certain types of firearms. House Bill 1525 would impose harsh restrictions on gun ownership, particularly from those from 18 to 20 years of age. The bill would change the state code to extend Virginia's existing handgun and assault firearm restrictions, which already apply to those under 18, raise it to 21. And the measure prohibits persons younger than 21 years of age from purchasing a handgun or assault firearm anywhere in the state. But it goes on and says you have to have adult supervision, right? And I'm not going to read the whole article. Virginia Democrats pushing through a bill to restrict anyone under 21 from possessing a firearm unless they are in the company of an adult. Virginia defines an adult as somebody who's 18. So you can't be in possession of a gun if you're 20 unless you have an adult that's 18 with you. I can't make this stuff up. Just when you think things get any dumber, Virginia says, hold my beer. Your thoughts?
Classic sloppy draftsmanship. I have at different times in my life had to spend time helping legislators clean up sloppy draftsmanship. And sometimes they make it all the way through and get passed into law, and then we have to clean it up by suing over it. This happens. You know how I feel about gun control, right? Gun control is using both hands.
Right.
But this sort of thing happens all across the board. It's not just gun control. This is just the fact that politicians delegate and the people who are legislating don't understand what they're legislating to begin with, in many cases, especially with guns, and the staffers who are involved in dealing with the Legislative Services Bureau. There's a lot of people involved.
They're driven by ideology.
Messy.
They're driven by ideology, not, hey, how do we're really trying to make public policy that makes sense. No, they're just driven by emotion, right? And I know that because I'm going to share a little bit of sound from you. Every week we play the dumbest thing I've heard all week. Well, the Grand Rapids, Michigan mayor takes the cake this week for the dumbest thing I heard all week. Anthony, roll that.
Somebody changes their tire with a gun. What they're for is killing human beings. And so it's really hard. I think as a community, we have to start having some shaming around gun possession. I think if you've got a gun, you should be ashamed of yourself. I really do. Now, I'm sorry, that's going to be the soundbite of the night, and the NRA is going to be mad at me. But I get that we got a Second Amendment. I get it. But, you also should be ashamed of yourself if you smoke. That's not against the law. I think if you own a gun, you should be ashamed of yourself. And you should really do some self-reflection. And I think that I just see so much more harm, just like cigarettes. I see so much more harm done than benefit.
Doolin, are you ashamed of yourself? I mean, be ashamed of yourself, you gun-owning pig.
He's convinced me. That's it. All mine are going into a smelter this afternoon. Oh, my God. How can I ever show my face in public again, right?
That's the mayor of Grand Rapids, Michigan. You should be ashamed of yourself. If you think you should be allowed to defend yourself against anybody or anything, you should just be ashamed. Sit in the corner.
Sure.
Come on.
Just like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson should be ashamed of themselves for owning guns, and so should just everybody, basically, in American history. We live in a country founded on an armed revolution. That revolution was fought in large measure with privately owned firearms, including privately owned cannon in some cases.
Yeah, that's right.
So this is...
hey, can I still get a cannon? Can I get a cannon?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Okay, good. I'll look at it.
No problem. I've got a friend who's got a couple, and it's big fun.
How many forms do you have to fill out?
It depends on how big the cannon is, but listen, I just want to say about this mayor. He's not original. This isn't new. Both arguments that he used, that somehow just sort of this, I should be ashamed of owning a gun. It's been around my entire life, and I've certainly dealt with it in public fora, on panel discussions, that kind of thing, debates. And so is the cigarette analogy, right? And I remember sitting next to John Lott on a panel almost 30 years ago, and I remember coming out of my mouth the words, "I don't think I'm ever going to have to reach for a pack of smokes to save my life." Yeah. Right? You know, they can't.
Yeah. The Marlboro man ain't riding to the rescue, guys.
That's right.
Yeah.
A gun is a tool for punching holes at things at a distance.
Yeah. And pretty effective at it. Anyhow, so it just seems that, you know, Virginia just went off the deep end. 50 new taxes and gun control. Adult supervision only. You're 18, you're an adult in Virginia. Supervise yourself. It's bizarre.
Yeah, I'm looking at the other proposed legislation that they've got just in Virginia right now.
Yeah.
You know, waiting periods, banning things that are already illegal. That's pretty common lately too, where the state will try to ban something that's already prohibited, like the Glock switches. That's already a felony at the federal level. It'll get you in prison for 10 years. You know, so this is.
It's
There's
redundant.
really nothing. Yeah. They just don't want anybody to have guns except the people who work for them.
Hold on. They only want the police and law enforcement to have guns. But wait a second. They hate ICE and they hate the Border Patrol. They don't want them to have guns either. But they want the police to have them. No, they don't, because they want to defund the police. I'm so confused. Do you want to have a headache now? God bless America. I'll just say that. I'm not ashamed of myself at all. In fact, I'm kind of proud of it. Kind of proud of the fact that I'm willing to defend my family, my community, and my country. Dylan, you're the best looking, smartest, most accomplished lawyer ever, and I appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Gruber. You're the smartest host ever.
I agree with that. I think you're right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Just absorbs it.
Oh, Lord. See? No. You're the best. No. You're the best.
No, you the man.
There you go. All right. We'll be back. It's Free Speech, Free for All Friday. All right. We're going to continue with the phone calls today on a Free Speech, Free for All Friday. Of course, it's powered by the Patriot Mobile Common Sense Hotline. John is in Michigan today. John, how are you?
I'm doing good this morning, Steve. Surprise, surprise, surprise. All you New Yorkers that voted for Mondami, look what you got.
Get a shovel, but bring an ID. Yeah. By the way, Mamdani was at the White House yesterday, John, if you didn't know, begging for help with housing costs in New York City. As if that's anybody's problem but New York City. You created this problem with your proposals, bad proposals and policies, right?
Well, what got me, too, is, you know, he's going to tax the rich. He's going to tax the rich. When he found out he couldn't tax the rich because the state of New York wouldn't let him, he said, well, it looks like the middle class is going to have a tax increase.
Yeah. Funny. He's going to nail everybody with higher taxes, lower services, and chaos. Did you see the snow and garbage piled in the streets of New York City, folks? It is quite something. John, thank you for the phone call. Let's go to Ronnie in California. Ronnie, how are you?
Hello there.
Hello, Ronnie. What's up?
Well, you know, Steve, I got the word That was pretty dumb, too. Gotta laugh. I got a word that the big pharma just completely hates, and it's called cure.
Yeah.
And, we have the technology to cure cancer. You got the ivermectin, you got the hydroxychloroquine, you got the chlorine dioxide. And then we have the colloidal silver that completely cleans your blood. It cures malaria in 4 days and takes care of MRSA and staph. And, they just like symptomatic relief to give you stuff to make you feel better for a minute because there's more side effects and keeps you going to the doctor and whatnot.
Symptomatic
and,
relief.
Now they have the nanotechnology with the CBD, and they can actually inject straight into a pancreatic tumor, and it dissipates in 3 weeks, and it's completely gone.
Ronnie, you're
So
exactly
people
right.
are
They don't
listening.
like cures because there's no money in being cured. There's money in sick people. Sick people are a commodity. Healthy people aren't worth doodly squat. A lot of truth to that. A lot of truth to that. I'll take a break. It is the Steve Gruber Show. All right, here's a story we've talked about for years because I saw this article yesterday, in fact. Boring machines and tunneling at an all-time high, right? These boring machines have become so high-tech that they can create these connections for all sorts of things. And at Enbridge, they offered a number of years ago to build a tunnel under the Straits of Mackinac to replace Line 5. The technology is cutting edge, no pun intended, all over the world now. And instead of embracing it because they said, hey, we'll build it with Michigan, we'll let Michigan companies be involved, we'll hire Michigan people, and when we're done, we're going to give this tunnel to the state of Michigan, not just to transport energy, but for communications or, frankly, anything you want to do with it. And what happened? They've been attacked endlessly by those on the fringe. It's strange. They finally ended up in front of the United States Supreme Court. Here to sort it out with me, Ryan Duffy, member of the Enbridge Communications team. Ryan, nice to have you back on the program.
Good morning, Steve. Good to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the article. It was great. All these incredible tunnel projects, which you're hoping to be part of that that group soon, but it's taken years of roadblocks and lawsuits and, well, frankly, chaos. What about the Supreme Court? You were in front of the Supreme Court this week, my understanding. What happened?
Right. So it was on Tuesday, and we were happy to have the chance to be there in front of the justices. And I can tell you it was a great experience for me personally to get to be in there, in that room and see them in person. And they had a lot of good questions for us, for sure. And they were really up to speed on all these issues around Line 5. That case in front of them, it's really focused in on a procedural issue around the time frame for the deadline we had to move the Attorney General's lawsuit back from 2019. In that case, we were trying to move it over to federal court. And so they're looking at that really narrow issue. But when it's decided, it will essentially determine if this case on Line 5 will be heard in state or federal court. And of course, we very much believe these are really federal issues involved here. Line 5 is, of course, an international pipeline going to Canada. It crosses multiple states. You have the fact that Canada invoked that 1977 Transit Pipeline Treaty, which specifically says one country can't cut off the other country. And it's critical energy, of course, for the entire region. And then you have the fact our regulator is a federal agency, PHMSA. They oversee pipeline safety. So all of those reasons, we've already had 2 federal judges actually agree with us and say that these are federal issues and that states can't regulate pipeline safety. But overall, clearly these cases, they go on forever. They really don't benefit anyone. We've had a number of successful decisions in these cases, but still, as far as solutions, we believe the tunnel really is the best and fastest solution if you want to deactivate those existing pipelines. And they're safe. Line 5 has always been safe there, never had an issue, but the tunnel, of course, makes it even safer.
Yeah, modernize it, update it, make it a thing of beauty. That's right. All right, so timelines and tea leaves. Any idea on how long it'll take for the Supreme Court to come back with an answer on this procedural issue? And then, of course, you're in the room. I've never been in there, so that's kind of fascinating. But you get to read the tea leaves. You kind of, get a feel for what the justices are doing. Always hard to predict the Supreme Court, but do you get any sense of where they were going with their questions?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to predict. You couldn't really say. Almost all of them had some questions for us, but I would say, yeah, really hard to predict based on those questions and reactions and things. I mean, you have some court observer experts in the room, and they thought it went pretty well for us, but not clear. And the decision should come out, around June when they usually put out all those decisions.
All right. So it's just another, drag on the whole thing. It just slows things down, which I think has been, I almost wonder if the strategy by those opposed to this tunnel, which makes no sense to me whatsoever, is just to slow it down to the point where, finally people just throw their hands in the air. You're not doing that, of course. You have to get through this other Army Corps of Engineers permitting process. I think you're close on that. Where are we on that portion of it?
Yeah, we're getting closer. Just a couple of weeks ago, we did reach a big new milestone where the Army Corps put out its final environmental review of the project. So that takes a long time to get to that point. And it took us 6 years of review and study and collecting public comment and everything. We recognize this is a very special place where we're going to be doing this construction. That's why this has to be a very special project. Safety is going to guide us every step of the way. And also a focus on minimizing impacts to that area, to the communities around the straits, the cultural resources, all of that. We've been working hard to really minimize those impacts. We're proud of the work we've done to this point. Part of that is hiring the best companies to do the work. And you mentioned all the tunnel projects going on around the country. The companies that will be doing this tunnel have done some of those other big projects and complicated tunnels, so they know how to do it. They know how to do it right and do it safely.
Right.
And that's really what the final report said. It really showed and reflected that the long-term benefits of the tunnel really are going to outweigh what will be short, manageable impacts that will only be happening there during that construction period.
Sure. All right. So what are our next steps? Obviously waiting for the Supreme Court decision, likely in June. But what are the next steps, though, with the Army Corps environmental impact study through? Where do we go next?
Yeah, so the Army Corps really is that federal piece. Then there is a state piece also, and we're renewing a permit with the State Environmental Department, Eagle. So that's in the works. That's a permit we've already had in the past. We received it in 2021, and we've talked about that, but this has gone on so long now, it's actually expiring this year. So again, looking at environmental protection with that permit, which is something that's very important to us. We've done those 40,000 hours of survey work there at the Straits. We've worked very hard to protect those natural resources. Our goal all along has been to have the smallest environmental footprint possible. And the great thing about a tunnel is just about all the construction is happening underground, below the water. There's small construction areas on the north and south side. So minimal impacts. The tunnel boring machine will go down on the south side, ramp down into the ground, go under the Straits. And then when it gets to the other side, all we have to really do is dig a big hole and pull it out piece by piece. So, all the work, the pre-work, the designing, the planning, it's all been done with a focus on really minimizing those impacts.
Still more work to be done, but it seems like to me, Ryan, maybe the end is almost in sight. Almost. Last word to you.
Yeah, we're hoping for this year for sure. I mean, we want to be focused on that, move it forward. We want to get past the delays. The delays are really just keeping the status quo, and we don't want that. We want to move forward and build the tunnel.
There you go. Ryan Duffy from Enbridge. Thank you for the update. We'll look forward to that Supreme Court decision and the next steps, sir. Thank you.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it. All right, there you have it. What are your thoughts on all this? Love to hear from you. All right, love to hear from you. SteveGruber.com. Drop me a note. If your dog is family, and let's be honest, they are, feed them the best. Great Lakes Pet Food, high-quality American-made dog food using premium pork, chicken, and turkey, Michigan-made. Trusted. It's what we feed our dogs here. Do your dog a favor. Check out GreatLakesPetFood.com. GreatLakesPetFood.com. We've been feeding our hair factories, better known as dogs, for years. Their hair is really healthy, too, by the way. GreatLakesPetFood.com. Guess what's next? Ivy, everybody. That's right, Ivy. Where's that round of applause when I need it? Because here she comes, all right? See, there it is. All right. It is the Steve Gruber Show. I'll be back in just a moment. All right, back to it now. As the applause indicated moments ago, Ivy is in the room. Ivy, nice to have you on a Friday. How are you?
Great. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Friday. Welcome back to Michigan.
Well, glad to be here. It was a new experience to be there right outside the doors of the State of the Union. Talked to a lot of great people. Got a chance to meet the senator from Alaska, Dan Sullivan. What a good guy. Right. Just one of the new people I met. Met a couple new members of Congress as well. And no, it was great.
Awesome. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
You did some incredible reporting. We got lots of, rave reviews. So good job to you.
Greatly appreciate it.
I actually saw a video the other day of Alaska kids playing during the wintertime. And, they're all in their winter suits and it's blowing and howling wind and they're outside playing, having a good time. It's like, those Alaska kids are pretty tough.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They are. But, look, it's been quite a winter around here, too.
Oh, yeah.
Let's be honest. Remember, there was a day it was 25.4 degrees below zero actual air temperature. So,
oh, yes.
Bam! Anyhow.
The cold will certainly make you feel alive, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I do want, I love to, generally on Fridays, talk about the dumbest thing I've heard all week.
Yeah.
And here's a little bite from Nancy Pelosi.
Of course.
So thank you so much for joining us. You have sat through a great number of State of the Union addresses, some of them behind the president. What was your reaction to what you heard this evening?
Well, first let me say that I think that Governor Spanberger did a remarkable job just insisting on the truth, which is what we have to do when we're dealing with this president. I thought the speech was lazy. It's one thing to acknowledge patriotism and people getting well and everything when you have absolutely nothing to do with their courage or the rest, but you spend an hour and a half doing it. What is the state of the nation?
So she says there, why do we have to spend an hour and a half celebrating the great,
of the nation,
no, celebrating patriotism and celebrating America.
It's unbelievable.
That's what she was saying.
Well, and at the same time, you've got Ilhan Omar hooting and hollering. You've got Rashid Tlaib chanting KKK instead
they
of
kept
USA.
screaming murder. I believe.
It's just
murder. You're a murderer. You're a murderer.
Yeah.
Referring to the ICE raids.
Whatever.
And, it's ridiculous.
It is.
I did notice how there are many Democrats around them just, all the time, like squinting their eyes and just going, oh my gosh, can you guys stop it?
Well, did you see the ad that came out, though?
Oh, yeah.
From the Republicans. It's the most powerful ad I've seen. I want you to stand up if you believe the government's job is to protect American citizens over illegal aliens. Mm-hmm. I think John Fetterman stood up. I think other than that, every Democrat in the room was basically asleep.
There may have been another one or two there.
Maybe.
But yes, very few did that.
Shameful.
It is shameful. But, Nancy Pelosi can have her view of the speech.
Yeah, whatever.
But the American people actually really resonated with it. And I want you to hear this clip from CNN. Let's play that second bite for me, Anthony.
The growth President Trump made over the speech. So pre-speech, it was 54% of speech watchers said his policies will move the U.S. in the right direction. After the speech, that number goes up 10 percentage points. So Donald Trump made some progress with people watching the speech from their pre-speech expectations to what they saw in the speech itself. And that 64% number, that's pretty much in range across all of his State of the Union addresses. In his first term, last year, the joint session, that's about what we've seen. Is roughly 2/3 have walked away from his speeches thinking he's going to move it in the right direction.
He is moving in the right direction. By the way, I just saw a brand new polling that will tie into that from Trafalgar. Mm-hmm. First post-speech approval ratings, 51%. So he's back above 50%. And Trafalgar is one of the three that I trust. There's only three that I trust. That's one of them.
Right. Well, I mean, that's an incredible, look there from CNN saying, hey, his approval and
bounced up 10 points.
Bringing or propelling America in the right direction went up significantly after the speech.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think, once again, Democrats are tone deaf. It's like, hey, guys, I understand that you hate him, but you might want to stand for the things that actually are great for America.
Well, a lot of them did not stand up for the hockey team. They didn't stand up for Medal of Honor winners. I mean,
Well,
if
they
you
didn't
can't
stand up for
celebrate great
the-
Americans like that, I mean, if you can't stand up for that, there's something genetically wrong with you.
No, I just think that they have no, their hearts are stone. They just hate the president. Their hatred is so great that they can't even stand for what's right. And that's not surprising because that's been, this was the case when he was in office, for his first term.
Yeah.
I was amazed that they stood at all because in the past they did not stand at all.
There's a lot of truth to that, yeah.
But yeah, it was, I think that this is great. I think the American people are waking up to, and this is going to be an incredible campaign ad, the one you just mentioned, in terms of, hey, if your first duty is to take care of your citizens, you have constituents that you represent, and actually you're not representing them, you're representing the illegal aliens and giving them all of these services that should be going
treatment.
And preferential treatment that should be going to American citizens.
Agreed.
And actually taking your rights and your
money,
authority, if you will, in America
Yeah.
to vote in things that you want. That power gets lessened when you have illegals voting and things like that. So
Absolutely.
I think it's.
I think you're going to hear about
Americans
this, by the way. I'll say this again. It's coming out, and the president might declare a state of emergency on this.
Yeah.
You and I have been aware about this for a few weeks now, but China was involved in the American elections of 2020, other ones, but the 2020 election, they have, as they say, the receipts. China created fake identities, fake driver's licenses, fake mail-in ballots all over the country.
Right. Well, there was a huge increase all across the nation. Wasn't there something like
In driver's licenses, but
3%?
Michigan, 956,000 new licenses, according to
What was the percentage increase from year to year? Do you recall?
I don't, but I know it was the biggest increase since 1949. That I can tell you.
And that doesn't necessarily compute because we know people are leaving the state
exactly
because of economic.
Well, it's 10% of the population. It's mathematically impossible. Something's wrong there. I got to leave it there, Ivy. Love you.
I love you too, Steve.
But you can read that story, MichiganNewsSource.com. It's a big deal. Almost 1 million driver's licenses in the state of Michigan. As Ivy points out, people are leaving the state, and yet the number goes way up. No. Something smells here. Final thoughts after this. All right, let me tell you about something people keep asking me about. It's the QE infrared facial mask. It's red and infrared light therapy you can use at home to help support healthier looking skin, boost collagen, and soften the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. Instead of expensive spa treatments, you just wear the mask for a few minutes a day. Ivy does it. How good does she look? Huh? It's comfortable, easy to use, and fits right into your routine. It's the same mask featured right here, of course. People loving the results. Skip the costly spa visits. Go to QEstrong.com. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll get the mask for under $200. You can't buy them anywhere for that price. QEstrong.com. Promo code is Gruber. And like I said, Ivy uses it most nights. Seems to work very well. Most health problems don't start with what you're missing. They start with what you're not absorbing. And that's exactly what Enzorb from Victory Nutrition International is designed to address. Here's the reality. If your digestion isn't working properly, it doesn't matter how good your supplements look on the label, your body can't use them. Absorption is the gatekeeper. Enzorb supports digestion, nutrient absorption, and so the things you take can actually do what they need to do. No stimulants, no hype, just smart foundational support for gut function, where energy, sleep, immunity, and metabolism all begin. I like the approach. It's logical. Fix the foundation first, then build from there. If you want to get more out of your nutrition and your supplements, take a look at Enzorb from VNI. Victory Nutrition International, vni.life/Gruber. That's Enzorb, VNI, at vni.life/Gruber, because it matters. It really does. Let me just say this before we go. China rigged the 2020 elections. That's right, China rigged the 2020 elections. I've been telling you this. It's all starting to come out. You're going to hear from this and all about this from President Trump very soon as well. And you'll say, Gruber, how'd they do it? Well, number one, ID mills. Remember those driver's licenses in Chicago, a semi-load? Remember the ballots, 10,000 illegal ballots found in Michigan, and the driver bringing mail-in ballots from New York to Pennsylvania, all during the 2020 election? 1, 2, 3. Fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America.